Hello, everyone, and welcome on this new episode of Education Futures. Today, I'm very happy to be with Boris Walbaum. Hello, Boris. Welcome on the show.
Hello, Svenia. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So, Boris, you have an incredible career from La Cour des Comptes in France to ministerial advisor, McKinsey, 20 years building an equal opportunity NGO. Now, the founder and the director of a European university. You wrote a book on AI and education. We're going to talk a bit more about that. What is the through line for you? What is the thing that connects all the dots since you started your career?
Well, I think in a way, what connects the dots is just the journey. Um, that's the tagline of Forward College, making your studies a journey. I think it's some people choose to to focus and to go deep into one industry, one kind of functions, and so on. I like to wander around. I'm curious. I like to explore things. I like to make connections. So I guess, yeah, going through governments, consulting, being a social entrepreneur, being a researcher as well, because I did my PhD when I was 40. Um, I feel that it allows me to do some more, yeah, some transversal thinking, which is really great because in an uncertain world, there is no choice. You have to travel. You need to be kind of a Ulysses, and I think so. I feel quite comfortable in this fast-paced world.
Mm, yeah, it looks like it. It looks like you're very comfortable. And so, yeah, tell us a bit more about this book that you've written. Excellent isn't what you think. I'm curious to know what exactly has collapsed about the old definition that we have about excellence.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot to say about just the title, but to answer your question is it's going back to what I was just saying a few seconds ago. We are moving from a world which was pretty certain, pretty predictable. I remember at McKinsey when I was doing strategy, it was all about spotting the right segment, the right industry, to invest in, and you could kind of anticipate the ROI of your investment, of your acquisition, and so on. So it was like when you're selling, it was a little bit like optimizing the sales, and
Mm.
um, now we're moving to a much more unpredictable world. AI is part of it, but it's only part of it. Um, and so I don't think it's about adapting ourselves to AI per se, because when people think about it, they always think about AI as it is today, but it's moving so much faster than we can even think. We cannot anticipate what it is that we need to adapt ourselves to, right? So I think the key shift that operates is about moving from from certainty to uncertainty, and that's a major shift. um, our education systems were really organized around the concept of performance. You have to do things in a specific way that was predefined. It was a lot about compliance, excellence in terms of compliance, right? Because we knew what we had to learn, because we knew what we had to be trained for, right? And we knew what kind of jobs we would be doing, or now it's not the case anymore. We don't know for what jobs we're getting trained, and people don't always realize that. And that's the whole point of my introduction. Excellence is not what you think, because in a way, many reactions from parents, to some extent from students, is about you know going up faster this ladder of rankings and so on, without realizing that this ladder was built, and the direction and the order of the rankings was built around this order, this paradigm of certainty for this world that is really shifting at the moment. And so there is a feeling of scarcity. because obviously, there will be less and less jobs at Goldman Sachs, less and less jobs at McKinsey. Where I went, I know, as a, for a fact, because I have still quite a few, relationship there, that they recruit less,
Mm.
and they're going through a hard time. So there is more and more competition, more and more pressure, um, without, and leaving the change and the opportunities that actually happen when the world is more uncertain in a blind spot. So that's exactly the point of excellence. Is not what you think. It's not about this ladder, it's not about excellence in the certain world, a world that you can anticipate and predict. It's about building excellence in a world that has become uncertain and much more adventurous. and
Mm.
and really, it's I think there is a real psychological break to coming to terms with the realization that we are into uncertainty. We are entering uncertainty. It's very difficult, especially for parents, but also as a teenager, because you're more fragile, and it's very difficult to have all these, kind of toxic or yeah, anxiety-inducing narratives that is told to you every day. Um, and so you try to get more reassurance going, to this ladder, while you need to at some point, realize that no, okay, the world is shifting, so what should we do? And this is a very difficult question to confront with, and people tend to be short-sighted and go, oh, let's do more business education or business and AI, or and why, because AI is about, again, it's about AI now, but AI in 3 years when they will graduate, or 4 years when they will graduate, will be completely different.
Mm.
So, what are the no regret moves? That's what we say at McKinsey. What are the no regret moves? So the investments that you can make in an uncertain world that will pay whatever, the future. That's the big question that we have to ask ourselves.
Mm. And, for the first time, we see that machines outperform students in the domains that schools have spent centuries teaching. It's also something that you write about. And what should we teach in today's age to really prepare students for this world full of uncertainty?
So, about going back to the no regret moves, that is a category of strategy that we use at McKinsey. Um, we need to understand what will have a durable value, whatever the future. Going back to this, and I hear a lot, about soft skills are the new hard skills, the humanities are the future, and this is not untrue. But I don't think this is as enlightening as talking about the distinction between technical skills. And by technical skills, I can refer to being able to build an agent today, refer to being comfortable with derivatives or differential equations, or knowing very well the French Revolution, or these are technical skills. But we don't know what technical skills we will need, right? So we need to shift from technical skills towards the deep skills. The
Mm.
deep skills are, or the foundational skills, or the transversal skills. They are not only soft. There are soft skills that are deep, and that are soft. There are soft skills that are more technical or hard. They are both. So the way I talk about these deep skills in my book, and there is, to be honest, among experts, a quite strong consensus on that. If you invest on the key cognitive skills of critical thinking, inquiry, data analysis, and all that, if you learn the key social skills of how to connect with people, how to gain influence, how to build trust, if you invest in emotional skills around resilience, around emotional awareness, if you build your practical skills around time management, which is a key decision. The only thing we have that is given to us in life is time. How you deal with it is a big thing. How we
Mm.
make decisions. So these basic skills, to me, are the root system of our learning tree. If you master these skills, you will be able to develop the technical skills that are the branches of this tree, and they will not last long. These branches will fall, after 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 year. But so what matters is your root system, because that's how you will always remain relevant, because you have this deep anchor and this ability to transform that into things that are meaningful in the context.
I like this metaphor of the tree. And so I'm very curious to know more about the university that you started, because you started a university. How do you prepare your students at Ford College for this future, and how do you teach these skills? Because that's often a question that I ask myself and I ask our guests here on Education Futures, is how do you teach soft skills in a meaningful and in a way that that really creates change and impact?
This is the key question, because I hear a lot people and deans talk about soft skills, but when it comes to the how, there is nothing really serious, to be honest, without being too disrespectful. But before answering your question, I will, talking about Forward College, address something that is often missed, which is the question of the appetite for learning.
Yeah.
What these smart machines jeopardize is also the meaning of learning, the reason why we should learn. It's not only what we should learn, it's also why on earth should we learn. Of course, it's easy to dismiss the idea that because we have smarter machines, we shouldn't be smart anymore. So everyone understands that we still need to be smart to make sense of, of our lives, to be adaptive, to be independent, so on and so forth. But still, and especially for the younger generations, AI has attacked their appetite for learning. And not only AI, it's more the desocialization of their lives. They have fewer relationships. They spend more time on their own, alone. And the problem is that this desocialization reduces the appetite for learning. Why? Because the appetite for learning comes from social interactions, from our, you know, our love or our need to connect with other people.
Mm.
Do you know what is the most challenging thing that we ever learn as a human being?
Many. I mean, to connect with each other, I guess, to talk, to
Yeah,
communicate.
to talk. Yeah, to speak the first language,
Yeah.
to
Mm.
walk, and then 1 year after, on average, to speak the first language.
Mhm.
These are the biggest leaps in terms of learning that we'll ever manage.
Mm.
And why do we do that? I mean, we do that without a teacher, without a curriculum, without exams, without grades, without nothing of that. We do that out of love for our parents, right? And this is really something deep that we've completely forgotten, because when you look at how school are, how what happens at school, there is very little human interaction. But the truth is that we learn out of love, out of mimetism, out of social comparison, emulation, competition, you name it. But without that, we won't sustain learning. And that's why, the MOOCs have been, just a very moderate success. We thought, and I remember a report that was, whose title was "The Avalanche is Coming." Well, the avalanche is still up there in the mountains, right? There hasn't been any change in the university system with the MOOCs. Why? Just because people, whatever the quality of the MOOC, if you are on your own, you don't get the stimulation for learning. You don't
It's not
get the
engaging.
emulation. Exactly.
Uh,
So I think this is a very important aspect. We need to, of course, take into account this new technology, which can make, and we'll talk about it, learning much more efficient. But without the human interaction, we don't have the appetite to learn, actually. And just, if you take the analogy of tennis, um, AI is amazing because it allows you to interact with something and learn in a playful way, in a way that is very interactive, like the tennis wall. The tennis wall is a great invention because it's much better than being alone and do your homework and be, on your own on the tennis field, right? There is not much you can do, and it's like being in front of a blank paper. But the tennis wall is great, to learn your lesson. But nobody would have started playing tennis to play against a wall.
No.
Nobody would have. So people are eager to play against the wall because they have the opportunity to play against other people or with other people. So that's really something that we need to keep in mind. We need to find a balance between how we leverage technology and how we interact with other human beings, and we get the energy to actually learn. So that's and I see, and we see in the statistics that the appetite for learning, the willingness for learning, the attention span. The attention span is not only because the TikTok videos are short. It's because they are not so much interested. They are less interested because the emulation is not there. If
Why?
you are,
Why did they lose their curiosity? I mean, it's a very human thing to be curious and to want to learn, right?
yes,
What
but
happened?
it's also because you see others being curious and you want to be more curious than the others and you want to know things that the others know. Because you don't want to know less. So of course, there is a self-drive, and there are people who are naturally very curious and very driven, others who are much less. So there is a variation in terms of, what is the influence of others on our behavior. But this is a common trait of human nature, that we are driven a lot as social animals by what we see in others.
Yeah.
So that's really an important fact. And as we connect less, and as it is less meaningful for us to compare ourselves with others, with real others, and we get distracted all the time, then why should we make an effort to learn? I think, for all educators, this is a key challenge that we'll have to face. Much more than what to learn and how to learn is why will we learn? And it's not about explaining it. It's about experiencing the human connection that is the fuel of learning. So now we can talk about the why if you want.
Yes, please, let's talk about the why.
Yeah. So I mean, first, the way we find this balance at Forward College between the machine and the human interaction is through flipped classroom. And flipped classroom is great because it's both the why, the what, and the how. So the way it works is that it's not new, the flipped classroom, but so you are expected to learn your lesson by yourself. So we have been used to thinking that we cannot learn without a teacher. But the reality, as we know it as adults, that if you wait for a teacher to learn something, you won't learn much in the professional life. And so we need to learn autonomously, and especially then, because the pace of skills obsolescence, technical skills obsolescence, as I was saying earlier, is accelerating. So it's very important for them to be able to learn independently. And as I said, AI is great. So they have access to an AI hub where they have access to all the best models, and we also have more specific models related to the subject that they study. And they have, their readings and, you name it, all the material, podcasts, and so on. And then they are in small groups. So study groups, 3 or 4 students, and they have an assignment and they help each other. And then there is a classroom, a seminar, 2-hour seminar, where 15 students on average, not more than 17. And that's where they interact on what they've learned, which means that it's about debating. It's about having a conversation on questions that are, triggered by the teacher, the way we call them the fellows, to go deeper into their understanding, or to confront them with paradoxes, or asking them, okay, what are the facts in current affairs that contradict this theory that you've just learned, or that confirm this theory, or doing small group or simulation, you name it. And that's where the human interaction takes place. And that's very important because that's what will give them appetite to go back to the practice wall, to the AI hub, and to their learning material to learn by themselves. So that's also a moment where you experience social skills. A flipped classroom is being part of a conversation. It's like, attending a meeting.
Yeah.
That's what we tell them. We have an agenda. You're here to contribute, to make a contribution. It's exactly like a meeting. And that's the kind of expectation that we have. So it's about being in the flow. It's about actively listening what others do, being able to reformulate, to synthesize, to challenge what has been said, and find the right moment for your input to come into the conversation. So it's a lot of social skills, obviously.
Mhm. Yeah.
So that's one. Yeah,
And I have a question around this self-directed learning part.
sure.
First of all, how much time do they spend on this? I mean, percentage-wise, how much time do they spend on self-directed learning versus social learning with peers and their fellows? And then do they have the discipline? I remember being myself a student in the German system where this was being done a lot, where you had to do some learning beforehand and come in and have done the readings, etc. And I remember it was hard to have the discipline before each class,
Yeah.
So
It's interesting you ask this question because this is a question that is really top of the agenda. We noticed this year a drop in the engagement, in the preparedness for classroom. Although we gave them access to a better version of the AI Hub, and then that immediately connects to how AI, how all the uncertainty that they're facing has an effect. And we see that everywhere. That's not only at Forward College. There is a decrease in student engagement. So the approach that we're having is that we will organize before each seminar an MCQ or an AI oral conversation where the AI will ask them questions of what they've read, learned, and will go deeper depending on their answers. So they kind of an oral, a viva, let's say, on what they've learned, because that's something that you can scale with AI, right?
yeah.
And the beauty of it is that it's not only a way for them, and it's graded, obviously. So if you're not prepared, you got a bad grade, and students are quite sensitive to grades. So it's a good way to align the incentives because the quality of the class is related to the quality of the preparedness of our
Mhm.
students. So we actually need them for themselves to be ready. It's we don't want to have free riders. So that's very important. And that's how we will have a better preparation and better incentive system for them to get prepared. The other element is that we have um, so we have an engagement grade already. So the quality of the interaction in the classroom, students are graded on that. And this is, rather unusual that you are graded at university on your oral participation to the classroom. And that's also a strong incentive that, we got feedback from students who went to great, institutions, really great institutions in the UK. And they told us, it was very disappointing because we were the only person who would participate in the conversation. So it
Mm.
would be kind of a dialogue between the teacher and ourselves and,
Mm.
and us, so that's I think that's something that we're doing well at Forward College, but we always need to be very vigilant because learning has become fragile. The institution of school as an institution has been weakened by COVID, and now by AI.
Mm.
So the authority is not the only thing. We need to have a very good incentive system, and we need to have this human dimension that naturally feeds the appetite for learning.
Mm. Yeah, it's so interesting what you're saying, and this engagement that might be linked somehow to also the perspectives, the future perspectives that these students do or don't have actually in the age of AI. Do you think this is linked to the economic opportunities that they might miss because AI is taking over some entry level jobs? Do you feel that pressure in them? And how do you react? How do you prepare them for jobs that might be displaced?
Of course, they are concerned. I mean, they are well-informed students. Our students are, strong students, very curious, very aware. So they are concerned. That's for sure. So first, we have the conversation with them. That's also why I did my book. And in my book, there is the first chapter is on the future of work. So this is the first element that you need to take into account. And the answer is the one I told you earlier in our podcast. It's about no regret moves. If you invest in these deep skills for your future professional life, for your future personal life, for your future life as a member of a community, this will be useful whatever happens. So this is the best thing that you can do. And interestingly, the safest route are not the ones that we thought were the safe or what have been the safest routes before, because the rankings, obviously, that as we know them, they're just a mirror. There is a rear. These are the rear mirrors, so they just give a perspective on past performance, right? Not on future performance. And as the world is shifting, we need to shift, and we need, in a way, to move from certainty to getting ready for adventure. And this requires courage. But if you want to be short-sighted and just ignore and be in denial that uncertainty is coming, fine. But I think it's really not the best service to give to your students and to your kids. I think it's extremely important to be honest about what comes. But uncertainty has very good aspects, because uncertainty is about things that are not fixed. There are more opportunities when the world moves fast. If you are stuck in a system, I was having a chat with one of our graduates who he's Hungarian, and with the elections that happened last Sunday, he said, suddenly we feel that there are opportunities. That the spectrum of opportunities is opening because it was completely closed and yeah, closed by the Fidesz system.
Of course.
So we need to nurture in the readings, even in literature. There are, if you are fed by, I don't know, Saint-Exupéry, not Le Petit Prince, but all his other books about, and there are many, great books about adventure. But we need to feed our kids and teenagers with this sense of adventure, because it is, as you said, we are curious and we are super adaptive, and we've in a way been transformed by this very certain world, and there is a lot of thinking about how this has made our mindset very much geared towards procedural intelligence, again, performing compliance and the left part of our brain, and not the more contextual way to understand the world and see opportunities, which is more an Oriental approach to what efficacy is about. Mm-hmm. So we see uncertainty as something that is anxiety conducive, because we are stuck into this framework of being used by certainty, but it's not the human nature.
Very true. Very true. And I had this reflection recently that, shouldn't we also teach, but maybe that's what you teach through your deep skills catalog, but should we also teach entrepreneurial skills, because these students will have to create their own jobs at some point? Why not? And I think it's more than just creating a company, it's creating a profession, right? Because we see a lot of professions disappearing, others reappearing. So I'm wondering if the next generations of graduates will be, entrepreneurs in their mindset and in the way they look for jobs.
Yeah. So entrepreneurship, and having been a social entrepreneur, an entrepreneur, and now an education entrepreneur, I know a little bit, coming from the civil service. So it's quite a journey. Yeah. It's a collection of a few deep skills, which is about so risk taking is one, and we have that in the practical skills. It's about organization, which is about and making decisions. It's about courage. which is resilience and courage. It's a skill that we have in the emotional, um, and and if you have this mindset and these key core skills, then actually you can become an entrepreneur. It's not one skill, obviously. It's a set of deep skills. It's not a technical skill at all. It's and when we say skill, it's a combination with skills and mindset,
Yeah.
but rather deep.
Yeah.
So yes, I think
Yeah.
definitely, being more of an adventurer
Yeah.
is being equipped with this mindset that needs to be nurtured and these skills, and that's what we do. So going back to your questions about the what, um, the way we approach these deep skills, social, emotional, cognitive, and practical, is through different settings. So one is the flipped classroom, right? Especially for social skills, a combination of cognitive skills and social skills. Then we have the obviously we teach very demanding degrees academically. We have this academic partnership with the London School of Economics and King's College in data science, psychology, politics and IR, economics, business and management. But so obviously through that, we develop critical thinking, data analysis, concept understanding, and so on, and learning how to learn, obviously. But apart from that, our students live together. And not only do they live together, they also share their kitchens. And as you can imagine, if you have 8 students sharing a kitchen, which is the case in Lisbon, you have, I would say, on average, 5 to 6 nationalities. And getting an agreement on what a good smell at breakfast is roll mops a good idea, for breakfast? Um, or what does clean mean?
Mm.
These are arrangements that they need to find consensus, and that's not easy. And a lot of these, um, conversations will take place in the kitchens, in the living space, through co-living. They need to make these arrangements, these compromises, and so on. But in order to help them, we have a personal development program that focuses in year 1 on social skills and in year 2 on emotional skills. So we are very intentional in how we give students the techniques, I mean, the science behind that, but it's not about becoming knowledgeable, it's about practicing. And so typically when it comes to managing the roll mop smell in the morning, um, it's about nonviolent communication. If you arrive with a kind of a judgmental approach with the smell is disgusting and blah 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 and so on, this might not be the best approach, right? You may generate defensiveness. And typically, no, I don't like your chocolate smell either, in the morning. But if you use, the nonviolent communication with, what is the fact, how it impacts me, and then you pause and you enter a discussion just talking about you and not about, what the other one is doing, it makes a huge difference. And we know that in very few cultures, this is the case. In many cultures, we have a judgmental approach to conflict or to, tension. Um, and this needs to be deconstructed because this is not the best way to solve conflict, right? So it's not about agreeing to anything, not at all, but it's about how you frame the conversation. It's not about you being dumb, being, being unmanageable or being, frustrating or whatever. It's about, me being frustrated, me feeling aggressed, me feeling, whatever, right? So this is very important to also give them the keys to unlock
Right.
these situations that they will see later in lives in so many, we go through so many conflicts at home, at work, and so on. So this is also one bit for social and emotional skills, but it's also about the leadership, the entrepreneurship project. So we have on top of the academic program, the personal development and the entrepreneurship program. The entrepreneurship program is about going through 6 different projects across 3 years, with partners, without partners, or really with an entrepreneurial setting. So they work in teams, international teams, with the students coming from different disciplines. They need also to get organized. They like the kitchen, and we know that most of the time we don't get to choose who we work with. And they should get ready for that. And then they need to go through. We use design thinking. We use many methodologies for them to go through the projects, and we really, in a systematic way, help them to go forward in their projects. So that develops, decision making. They have to pivot. They, obviously in the beginning they come with great aspirations, and in the end they come up with a very little difference that they've made because they need to make a difference. It's not about having a great idea; it's about showing that you have made a difference. So understanding that no one expects you, that the world is full of people with solutions. That you really need to find a problem before finding a solution. Having an idea, and so on and so forth. All these life lessons that we take so much time finding out. But if you do that in the within the education, then you learn because you have someone to help you reflect on what's happening, and who will give you the skills or the techniques to deal with disagreement, to deal with strategic deadlocks, to deal with marketing deadlocks, and so on and so forth. So that's really the full spectrum. That's how we cover all these practical, social, emotional, and cognitive skills.
So if I understood you correctly, it's a lot of in terms of pedagogy and learn lots of flipped classroom, project-based learning, problem-based learning, those types of pedagogies. And I'm very curious to know
Yeah,
how
personal development as well. Personal
personal
development.
development.
Yeah, so it's really
Yeah.
and they have difficult conversations during these sessions because when you are involved in emotional intelligence in your two, the talking about moments where you had to show resilience or you should have shown resilience is not easy because you're talking about your vulnerabilities. You're talking about moments that have been challenging for you. But we are very clear about the fact that we are not here to provide a safe space. We are here to provide a space that is that pushes you out of this safe space, but in a way that is caring and that is not too stressful. But it is, if you don't struggle, you don't learn. So it's true intellectually, it's true also socially. If you're not pushed, towards making connections with people you don't know, and you feel, you're a bit timid, a bit shy, you won't improve. There is no other way. And the same for emotional vulnerabilities. You need to acknowledge them, to make sense of them, and you need to also be um, cautious with with them. So that's how we approach it. Highly
Mm,
challenging and highly supportive.
wow. That sounds amazing, actually, and very much in line with what we need. I'm curious to know how you assess them. Like, do they
Mm.
still have to write essays like other students, or did you also find extremely innovative ways to assess them?
Yeah. Well, first let's start with the basics. I think what many institutions have not clarified is just get rid of the gray area. At Forward College, either you are not supposed to use AI, and we create the conditions so that it's very difficult to cheat. So you are, filmed by your camera. Your browser is locked down, and phones are taken away. You know, just out of to make sure that each student is treated in a way that is equitable, and that our certification is valid. Because that's the value of your certification depends on the credibility of the institution to actually deliver the certification in a way that is meaningful, right? Or you are not allowed. You are allowed to use AI, but it's not that you are allowed. You are expected to use AI, and you are assessed on how smartly you have used AI. And that's why we have an AI journal where they describe the strategy that they followed, and they have to attach the logs so that we can check whether actually the strategy they describe reflects what they actually had in terms of conversation with AI. So we need to be very clear about that. That's the first thing, just to maintain what robust assessment in the age of AI. And we have a balance between the two. We have approximately 2/3 of our assessment without AI, and 1/3 with AI, right? Then the question is also about what else? Innovative ways to do AI. So I won't go into the different types of assessments that we have. We have essays, obviously, when it's in the LSE program, because that's how they assess. So that's where we have a very strong invigilation. But we have also professional briefs in politics and IR, where they have to brief the minister on the situation and so on, with or without AI, depending on what we want to achieve. Case studies and simulations and so on. But going to the difficult point of soft skills. By the way, soft skills, I don't know who's come with this expression of soft skills. I mean, I don't know whether you think that they are soft, but
No,
I mean, when you want to change them, they are much harder than the hard skills. You know,
so
it's
true.
much easier to be better at derivatives than to be a better listener. You know, it takes
True.
so much energy and focus to actually change your habits that they are really harder than the hard skills. But anyway, so about these so-called soft skills, let's say social and emotional skills. The reality, from science is that you should have a specific, if you want to be reliable, a specific assessment apparatus designed for specific for each skill. Each skill should be assessed in a specific way because it's very difficult to assess resilience and emotional literacy, for instance. So the apparatus should be different for each skill, which, as you can imagine, is very difficult to achieve. So the way we have come up with is first in personal development, we only grade our students based on engagement. What is important for us is that they are engaged through their personal reflections, through their engagement in the classroom, preparedness, and so on. But when it comes to assessing their actual progress, that is not graded, but we grade the engagement in the process. We do a 360 assessment. So what is it? A 360 assessment is not only an assessment that covers all the deep skills that I've talked about, including the social and emotional, on which I will focus, but also a 360 in terms of asking, nominating people who will give you feedback, raters who will give you feedback, quantitative and qualitative. So basically, if you nominated me, Svenia, to give you feedback on, if you were close friends, for instance, on emotional skills, I would give you feedback on your resilience, on your emotional awareness, on your empathy, and so on. And both rating you between 0 and 5 and giving you a qualitative comment. So obviously, the students reacted in the beginning saying, well, but it's subjective, right? So yes, but go to Cambridge and submit the same essay to Bedfire University and see whether you get the same comments and the same grade. Obviously you won't get the same grade nor the same comment, right? It is subjective. Even grades, essay grading is subjective. And going back to Kahneman and all the work that they've done with Olivier Sibony on how much, unreliable experts are and how much subjective experts are, you realize that everything is subjective. So we thought that all skills, in a way, are evaluated in a context, right? It's true at Cambridge, where they have certain standards, certain criteria, versus different at at Warwick University or whatever. The same here at Forward College. We are a community, and we evaluate your resilience, your emotional awareness in this context of Forward College as a student. But we feel that it's a good indicator of your overall performance. And what we do is we ask students to, and that's what our coaches do, because they have 2 sessions of coaching, 2-hour session coaching to debrief on the report that they get, the aggregate comment that they get, and then they do an individual development plan focusing on 1 or 2 skills, because these skills are so hard to make progress on, right? And we tell the students, okay, what matters is not, your average doesn't mean anything, because you may have very nice friends. What matters is how you have some spikes and some, areas where it seems that you are lower. Even if it's a 4 against a 5, it's not, very low, but doesn't mean it could be a 2 versus a 3. that is not what is relevant. What is relevant is that it's lower than your average or higher than your average. So you may have a spike here, and you may have a personal development need, there. Um, and that's how we help students make sense of that and get a 360 view of their skills, that are of their root systems, as I was referring to. So that's one. And then when they have to select the one or two skills, it's very difficult for them, because we have 21 of these skills. And they struggle to, because you want to be a better listener, you want to be more resilient, you want to be better at inquiry, asking good questions, etc., etc.,
Mm.
getting more influence and so on. And so we tell them, okay, you have to pick one or two. Why? What does success look like? What is your plan? How will you do that? And who will give you feedback on a day-to-day basis? And all these steps are super important. And on the why, then you need to say, okay, why is this so important to me? Because
Mm.
I suffer from it. Maybe, if I find myself too shy, and I would like to have more relationships, more friends, and so on. I suffer from this, or just an aspiration. I want to be, I don't know, a diplomat, and I need to improve my skills in terms of having influence on other people or connecting to other people. Right? I want to be in sales. I want to be better at connecting with people. Um, so that's how you become strategic in your own development, and that's what we want. Because after 3 cycles each year, through this 360 assessment, first year, second year, and third year, then you are used to first having a full perspective on your, development needs. But second, you have become the author of your own development. You have developed the routine of asking yourself about, okay, where am I today? What is important to me? And you still have the framework in mind. And okay, I should invest on this particular skill at that particular moment, right?
Mm. I'm curious to know, for one student in this 360 process, how many students assess one student in average? Is it 5? Is it 10? Is it the entire class?
No, it's usually around 5 to 10.
Okay. And so it's really the people that know me best, basically,
Yeah,
out of my
yeah,
class.
yeah. And
Okay.
typically, if you're just a team member and you're not a close friend, you will skip the emotional part.
Mm.
You will be more into the social and practical skills, because that's where you can observe meaningfully. So they opt in for the categories of skills that they feel relevant to answer.
Mm. So team members, professors, they also answer.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Wow.
And it could be also friends outside Forward College.
For the AI assessment parts, like, how much of the assessment is done by asking them how they used AI, and how much of the assessment is done without AI? And do you also have a framework or some sort of contract that they need to sign on how to use AI at Ford College? What is allowed, what isn't?
No, there is no contract, and I don't think we should. I mean, it's not at all the approach that we're taking. There are those. Um, so in terms to answer your first question, because there are many things to unpack here, and so one, um, we have, as I said, for our own programs, approximately 1/3 that are assessed with assignments with AI, and obviously in these situations, expectations are tenfold, much higher, because if you co-create with AI, obviously you need to be, to
Worse,
deliver much more, right?
of
And
course.
you have this AI journal that I talked about, and you have a Viva to make sure that you own what you co-created with AI. That's a co-creation. That's fine. That's what you will be doing most of the time at work. You will co-create with AI or with peers or whatever. So that's 1/3 in our own programs. That's 1/4 in the LSE program, but the LSE exams are still fully without AI. Okay. So that's about the first answer. Then about the contract and the kind of ethical, and so we train them. We are launching our AI certificate now for our own program. Our students are doing an AI certificate starting next week, the following week, where they will not only learn the technology, what the technology is conceptually, not technically, but conceptually. That how do we transform words into vectors and so on? How do we combine them? The kind of the mechanical interpretation. So these are things that they will understand, but also practicing it with Cloud Cowork, typically Cloud Code, and so on. So that's about the practical stuff. We teach them about that, and in year 2, in the entrepreneurship course, they build AI solutions. So now they switch from being AI literate to AI builders, right? So
Amazing.
that's one. But then the more general question is about how do we help them improve in terms of the use of AI? So as I told you, we have an AI hub. And on the AI hub, we have a specific thing which is called the AI mirror or the AI dashboard. So which is a dashboard that maps your use of AI. So the amount that you've used AI, the amount of messages and conversations, the consumption of water and electricity. So that's kind of the use. What is a breakdown of your AI use in learning? So when it's related to learning, was it to memorize? Was it to get explanations? Was it to get feedback and so on, based on the Bloom taxonomy? And that's very important, because if they get feedback on a tutorial on one of their assignments that their understanding of the concepts or the theories or the knowledge was too shallow, then they should use it more to memorize and to get explanations, right, on the more challenging concepts. So they can start strategizing and see whether their use of AI actually matches their development needs that have been highlighted by the teachers. So that's one very important aspect. And the third section is about offloading. So how much have they been offloading to the machine? Are they used to doing heavy offloading, which is the thing that you are not supposed to be doing, which is delegating, higher order thinking to AI. And we always compare with the rest of the cohort, so that it gives you an incentive, because if you are higher, then that's not great, right? And then it's about AI literacy. So what is the quality of your conversations? What is the quality of your questions, and so on and so forth? So that's through this reflective practice that you progressively develop your AI literacy.
That's amazing, Boris. Is this tool open source? I want to use it. I mean, this is incredible.
I mean,
You
it's
should
not
you
open
should
source.
get it
It's a
out there.
Yeah, but it's true. I mean, Paul LeBlanc is our the president of our academic council, and he used to be the chairman of the American Education Board. He's a very respected figure in the United States when it comes to technology and education. He told me, you should really do something with that, because I've never heard about it.
Never.
And I think more generally, especially with these duplicious technologies that get a lot out of you, as even more than you get out of them, it's very important to have this mirror, with the use of your phone. Not only the time you've spent, but you can do great things on Instagram, even on TikTok. You can do great things,
Yeah.
but you can also spend your time, just watching good-looking people, conspiracy theory, and so on. So you need to know that, and I think it's very important.
Yeah. It's amazing. Really well done, Boris. And yeah, if you ever if you ever bring this to the public, let me know. Thank you so much, Boris, for your time, for your incredible insights, and for sharing about your super important work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Svenia.